The locomotive pulls away from the platform at 2 in the afternoon. Steam rises in measured clouds. The drive wheels bite into cold rail. Behind the tender, 6 passenger cars roll forward with the deliberate weight of oak and iron. This is the westbound accommodation, running its published schedule through a corridor it has travelled twice daily for the better part of 3 years. The engineer is a man named Holbrook, 41 years old, 17 years on the line. He sits to the right of the boiler, one hand resting near the throttle, the other on the window frame. His fireman works the cold door with the rhythm of long practice. Neither man speaks. There is nothing to say. The locomotive answers the throttle. The steam pressure holds. The track ahead is theirs. The first signal stands a quarter-mile from the platform. It shows clear, a white disc facing the oncoming train. Holbrook notes it without thought, the way a man notes his own breathing. The signal confirms what the dispatcher already told him. The main line is open. No train ahead. No work gang blocking the right-of-way. He is authorized to proceed at track speed. The locomotive accelerates through the curves beyond the yard. Holbrook feels the weight shift as the cars follow. The fireman adds coal. The exhaust sharpens. They are moving now at 30 miles an hour, not fast by later standards, but sufficient for this stretch of road. The track is dry. The ballast is firm. The sun is low, but the light is good. Everything is as it should be. Another signal passes on the right. Clear. Then another. Clear. The system speaks in the only language it knows. White means proceed. Red means stop. There are no words, no explanations, only presence and absence. The signals do not tell the engineer why he may pass. They tell him only that he may. And Holbrook, like every other man on the line, has learned to trust them. The locomotive enters a long straightaway. Holbrook eases the throttle forward. The fireman wipes his hands on a rag and leans out to check the running gear. Everything is smooth. The journal boxes run cool. The side rods move without chatter. The train is a single organism now, its parts synchronized, its motion inevitable. Ahead, the line curves gently to the left. Beyond that curve lies the junction yard, a place Holbrook knows as well as his own kitchen. He has passed through it 500 times, perhaps more. The geometry of the place is written into his hands, his sense of timing, the way he reads the land. He is still 10 minutes from the yard when the next signal appears. It stands beside a telegraph pole, the lamp housing freshly painted. Holbrook watches it approach. The white disc is centered. The mechanism is locked. The signal is clear. He does not slow. There is no reason to slow. The system has given him permission. The system does not lie. The junction yard appears through a screen of leafless trees. Holbrook knows this view. He has watched it unfold from this same seat through all seasons, in rain and snow and summer dust. The yard handles freight and passenger trains moving in 4 directions. It is a point of convergence, controlled by a signal tower and an interlocking plant that governs 32 levers, each one connected by iron rodding to a switch or signal somewhere in the maze of track. The tower stands to the north, a 2-story structure with windows on all sides. Inside, a leverman watches the trains come and go. He sets the switches. He clears the signals. His decisions are translated into mechanical fact by the interlocking machine, a frame of cast iron and steel that prevents him from creating an impossible condition. If a signal is cleared for one route, the switches for that route are locked. If a switch is thrown for a conflicting path, the signal cannot be cleared. The system is designed to prevent collision through geometry, not judgment. Holbrook sees the yard signals in the distance. They are mounted on tall posts, visible from a mile away. He is looking for the main line signal, the one that will tell him to continue straight through the yard onto the western leg of the corridor. He knows where to look. He has looked there 1,000 times. The signal shows clear, white disc, steady and bright. Holbrook reads it and feels the familiar ease of confirmation. He is expected. The path is set. He will roll through the yard without stopping, as he has done before, and be on the far side in 3 minutes. The throttle stays open. The fireman adds another scoop of coal. The drive wheels turn. The train enters the yard throat. Here the main line splits into a network of tracks, some for through traffic, others for freight cars waiting to be sorted. The switches are invisible from the cab at this distance, hidden by the angle of approach and the clutter of rolling stock. Holbrook does not need to see them. The signals see for him. That is the purpose of the system. The locomotive passes a string of empty gondolas parked on a siding. It passes a water tower, a coal chute, a small shack where carmen wait for work. Everything is familiar. Everything is still. The yard is not silent. There is the sound of a switch engine working somewhere to the south, but the noise is distant, separate from Holbrook's path. He is moving through the yard as a through train, privileged, untouchable. He glances at the tower as he passes. The windows reflect the afternoon light. He cannot see the leverman inside, but he knows the man is there, watching the board, following the train's progress by the indicator lights that show which track sections are occupied. The leverman has cleared the signal. The leverman has set the route. Holbrook is simply following the instructions given. The main line extends ahead, straight and level. Holbrook can see a mile beyond the yard. There is no obstruction, no train in the distance, no work crew on the ballast. He is alone on the track. The locomotive is running smoothly. The injectors are feeding. The steam pressure is steady at 140 pounds. Everything is mechanical and correct. The fireman steps back from the fire door and wipes his face. He says something Holbrook does not hear over the exhaust. Holbrook nods anyway. There is no need for conversation. They are both doing what they have always done. The train is in motion. The system is in agreement. The world is behaving as expected. The locomotive crosses the center of the yard. Holbrook feels the slight roughness in the rail where switches are nested close together. The wheels click over frog points and guard rails. The sound is rhythmic, familiar, a language of iron spoken in steady intervals. He does not look down. He is watching the track ahead, scanning for obstacles, for anything out of place. He sees nothing. To the left, a freight train sits motionless on a storage track. The cars are loaded with lumber, their sides still wet from rain 2 days ago. To the right, a passenger car stands alone, uncoupled, waiting to be added to an evening local. These are normal sights. The yard is always full. Trains do not appear and vanish. They accumulate and disperse, controlled by schedules and manifests and the decisions made in the tower. Holbrook knows that the leverman has given him the main line. He knows this because the signal told him. The signal is not capable of ambiguity. It is either clear or it is not. There is no middle state, no hesitation. The mechanism is binary. Holbrook trusts the mechanism because the mechanism has never lied to him. The train continues forward. Holbrook adjusts the throttle slightly, compensating for a grade he can feel but not see. The fireman opens the blower to sharpen the draft. The fire brightens. The steam pressure climbs. Everything is responsive. The locomotive is a tool in Holbrook's hands, and he is using it as he has been trained to use it. A telegraph pole passes close to the cab. Holbrook sees the wires strung between the tower and the dispatcher's office 3 miles east. Those wires carry messages about train movements, about delays, about conditions on the line. Holbrook does not know what those messages say. He is not part of that conversation. He is part of the physical system, the man who moves the train along the path the system has authorized. Another signal appears ahead, mounted low beside the track. It governs the exit from the yard onto the western main line. Holbrook watches it approach. The white disc is visible, clear and unobstructed. He does not slow. The signal confirms what the previous signals have already told him. The route is open. The path is his. He is permitted to proceed. The fireman leans out the window and looks back along the train. Holbrook does not ask why. The fireman is checking the cars, watching for hotboxes or dragging equipment. This is routine. The fireman straightens and nods. Everything behind them is sound. Holbrook returns his attention to the track ahead. The locomotive is moving through the final third of the yard now. The switches here are less frequent. The sidings fall away. The main line begins to separate itself from the tangle of storage tracks. Holbrook feels the train settle into a straighter path. The wheels find the center of the rail. The oscillation smooths. He is still watching the track when he hears the first shout. It comes from the right, from somewhere near the base of the signal tower. The voice is distant but sharp, a man calling out in alarm. Holbrook does not catch the words. He lifts his eyes from the track and scans the yard. He sees nothing unusual. No one on the right of way, no obstruction ahead. The shout does not repeat. The fireman hears it too. He leans out again and looks toward the tower. Holbrook follows his gaze. There is movement near the base of the structure, men in work clothes, but they are not close to the track. Holbrook cannot see what they are doing. He returns his attention forward. The locomotive continues to roll. The second shout is louder. Holbrook hears it clearly this time, a man's voice rising above the sound of the exhaust. The word is indistinct, but the tone is unmistakable. Something is wrong. Holbrook pulls the throttle back slightly and leans out the window. The fireman does the same on the opposite side. They are both looking now, searching for the source of the alarm. A man appears beside the track, running. He is waving his arms over his head, both hands moving in wide arcs. He is not holding a flag. He is simply waving, desperate to be seen. Holbrook sees him and feels the first cold touch of uncertainty. The man is a yard worker, dressed in overalls and a wool cap. He is shouting something, but the train is still moving and the distance is too great. The words are lost. Holbrook reaches for the brake valve. He does not apply it yet. He is still trying to understand. The signals are clear. The track ahead is empty. There is no visible reason to stop. But the man is waving, and other men are appearing now, emerging from between the cars, running toward the track with the same frantic motion. The fireman shouts across the cab, "Something's wrong." Holbrook knows. He can see it in the way the men are moving, in the sudden scatter of bodies from positions of rest. He wraps his hand around the brake valve and begins to turn it. The brake shoes engage. The train shudders slightly as the wheels fight the rails. The locomotive begins to slow, but slowly. The train has momentum. 6 cars and a locomotive do not stop quickly. More men are visible now, 5 or 6 of them spread along the right of way. One is pointing ahead, gesturing towards something Holbrook cannot yet see. Another has stopped running and is simply standing with his hands raised, as if surrendering. The expressions on their faces are clear even at a distance. Fear, disbelief, confusion. Holbrook tightens the brake. The wheels begin to slide. The train is slowing faster now, but it is still moving forward at 15 miles an hour, then 10. The yard is sliding past. Holbrook is looking ahead, trying to see what the men see, trying to understand what has triggered this sudden panic. The track appears empty. The switches are set. The signals. The fireman sees it first. Jesus Christ. Holbrook follows his gaze and understands. Ahead, just beyond the next switch, a locomotive is sitting motionless on the track. Not on a siding, not on a parallel route. On the track Holbrook is traveling. The locomotive is facing away, its tender toward him, its crew invisible. It is not moving. It is simply there, occupying the space Holbrook was given permission to enter. Holbrook slams the brake valve into emergency. The wheels lock. The train shrieks against the rails, metal on metal, a sound like tearing cloth amplified beyond reason. The passenger cars lurch forward, their couplers compressing, their frames groaning. Inside the cars, passengers are thrown from their seats. Luggage crashes to the floor. A woman screams. The locomotive slides forward. Holbrook is gripping the window frame with one hand, the brake valve with the other. He is watching the stationary locomotive grow larger. 50 feet, 40, 30. The distance closes with terrible clarity. He can see the tender's rivets. He can see coal dust on the deck. He can see the back of the other engineer's head as the man turns, alerted by the scream of the brakes. The impact is not violent. The train is moving at less than 5 miles an hour when it strikes. But the sound is absolute. The couplers meet. The draft gear compresses. The tender frame buckles slightly. The collision is a single low thud, felt more than heard, a vibration that travels through every timber and iron plate in both trains. Holbrook is thrown forward against the boiler jacket. The fireman catches himself on the coal gate. The locomotive rocks and settles. Steam escapes from somewhere beneath the cab, hissing into the sudden silence. Holbrook straightens and looks through the window. The tender of the other locomotive is 3 feet from his pilot beam. The trains are coupled by impact, held together by their own weight. No one is injured. The collision is too slow for that. But Holbrook sits in his seat and stares at the tender ahead and does not move. He has just struck another train. He has just collided with rolling stock on a track he was signaled to use. The system gave him permission. The system cleared his path. And the system was wrong. The men arrive within seconds. Yard workers, Carmen, the leverman from the tower, all converging on the 2 locomotives locked together in the throat of the yard. Holbrook climbs down from the cab. His hands are steady, but his legs feel strange, as if the ground is not quite solid. The fireman follows him. Neither man speaks. The other engineer is already on the ballast, standing beside his locomotive with his arms crossed. His name is Kern. Holbrook knows him. They have shared this line for years, passing each other at sidings, waving from their cabs. Kern's face is pale. He is staring at Holbrook's locomotive as if he does not recognize it. "What the hell were you doing?" Kern's voice is quiet, almost conversational. Holbrook does not answer. He does not know what to say. He looks back along the yard, toward the signal he passed, the signal that told him to proceed. The white disk is still visible in the distance, still clear, still giving permission. The leverman is shouting at someone, demanding explanations. The yard supervisor arrives, a man named Calhoun, grey-haired and deliberate. He walks between the 2 locomotives, examining the point of contact. The damage is minor. The tender frame is bent. Holbrook's pilot beam is twisted slightly. No wheels are off the rail. No boilers are ruptured. The collision is almost gentle by the standards of railroad accidents, but it should not have happened. Calhoun turns to Holbrook. "What signals did you see?" "Clear," Holbrook says. "All clear from the platform." "What about the yard throat signal?" "Clear." Calhoun looks at the leverman. "You cleared him for the main line." The leverman nods. He is a young man, no more than 25. His hands are shaking. "I cleared the westbound main. I set the route. The interlocking locked it in. I did everything right." "Then how is Kern on that track?" The leverman has no answer. Calhoun walks back to the point of impact. He kneels and examines the rail, then stands and looks at the switches. The yard is full of them, a network of frogs and points that allow trains to move from one track to another. Each switch is connected to the interlocking machine in the tower by a system of iron rods and cranks. When the leverman pulls a lever, the rods move, the switch blades shift, and the route is set. The machine prevents conflicting routes from being set simultaneously. It is mechanical certainty, translated into geometry. But something has failed, or something has not failed. Holbrook does not know which is worse. Calhoun orders the trains separated. A switch engine is brought in to pull Kern's locomotive clear. The yard workers uncouple the bent tender and drag it aside. Holbrook's locomotive is inspected. The pilot beam is damaged but functional. The driving wheels are true. The boiler is sound. The locomotive is capable of movement. Calhoun tells Holbrook to take his train back to the platform. The passengers will be transferred to another consist. Holbrook will give a statement to the superintendent. Holbrook climbs back into the cab. The fireman is already there, staring at the gauges as if they might offer an explanation. Holbrook engages the reverse gear and opens the throttle. The locomotive moves backward, slowly, reluctantly. The yard falls away. The signal tower passes on the left. The white disk is still showing clear. Holbrook does not look at it. The investigation begins that evening. The superintendent arrives from the division office with 2 assistants and a stenographer. They set up in the yard office, a small room with a coal stove and a desk covered in train orders and waybills. Holbrook is called in first. He sits in a wooden chair and answers questions for 40 minutes. He describes the signals he saw, the route he believed he was following, the moment he realized something was wrong. The superintendent listens without expression. He is a lean man with wire-rimmed glasses and ink-stained fingers. His questions are precise. Did Holbrook see the yard throat signal clearly? Yes. Did he see the switch points? No. Did he assume the route was set for the main line? Yes. Why? because the signal was clear. The leverman is questioned next. He describes the sequence of events in the tower. A westbound freight had passed through the yard 10 minutes before Holbrook arrived. The leverman had set the switches for that freight to take the southern storage track. After the freight cleared, the leverman received the signal from the dispatcher that Holbrook's passenger train was approaching. The leverman pulled the levers to set the route for the westbound main line. The interlocking machine accepted the command. The signal cleared. "Did you see Kern's locomotive?" the superintendent asks. "No," the leverman says. "He was already on the track. He'd been sitting there for 5 minutes, waiting for clearance to move into the yard." "And you didn't see him?" "I saw him on the board. The indicator showed his section occupied, but I thought he was on the siding, not the main line." The superintendent writes this down. He asks about the interlocking machine. The leverman explains how it works. Each lever on the frame corresponds to a switch or a signal. The levers are mechanically locked to prevent conflicting routes. If a switch is set for one direction, the levers for conflicting switches cannot be moved. If a signal is cleared for a route, the switches for that route are locked in position. The machine is foolproof, or it is supposed to be. But the system is not perfect. The interlocking machine prevents certain combinations, but not all of them. It prevents a signal from being cleared if the switches for that route are not properly set. It prevents switches from being thrown if a signal is showing clear. But it does not prevent a train from being on a track that is signaled for another train. It cannot see trains. It can only see switches and signals. The superintendent asks the leverman to demonstrate. They walk to the tower together. The leverman shows how he set the route for Holbrook's train. He pulls lever number 12, which controls the switch at the yard throat. The switch blade moves, aligning the rail for the westbound main line. He pulls lever number 18, which clears the signal. The white disc appears in the signal housing. The route is set. The system is satisfied. "Now," the superintendent says, "where was Kern?" The leverman points to the track indicator board on the wall. It shows which sections of the yard are occupied, using small lights that illuminate when a train is present. The section where Kern was sitting shows a red light, occupied. "But that section," the superintendent says, "is also part of the westbound main line." The leverman nods slowly. "Yes." "So you cleared a signal for a train to enter a section that was already occupied." "The interlocking didn't stop me." "Because the interlocking doesn't know about Kern. It only knows about switches." The leverman says nothing. He is staring at the board, at the small red light, at the evidence of his mistake. But it is not entirely his mistake. The system allowed it. The system cleared the signal. The system said it was safe to proceed. The investigation continues for 3 days. Engineers are brought in from the main office to examine the interlocking machine. They disassemble the frame, checking each lever, each rod, each connection. They test the switches. They verify that the signal lamps are functioning correctly. They find nothing broken, nothing worn, nothing out of alignment. The machine is working exactly as it was designed to work. But the design has limits. The interlocking machine was installed in 1891, built by a firm in Pennsylvania that specialized in railway safety equipment. The machine governs 32 levers and controls 14 switches and 9 signals. It is an impressive piece of engineering for its time, a mechanical brain that translates the leverman's intentions into physical reality. But it is not omniscient. The machine prevents conflicting switches from being set. If the switch at the yard throat is aligned for the westbound main line, the machine will not allow the leverman to also align a switch for the southern storage track. The iron rods that connect the levers physically prevent this combination. The machine prevents signals from being cleared if the route is not properly set. If the switches are not aligned, the signal lever will not move. The mechanism is locked. But the machine does not prevent a signal from being cleared if a train is already on the route. It has no way to know if a train is present. The track indicator board in the tower shows occupancy, but the board is not connected to the interlocking machine. The board is a separate system, a visual aid for the leverman. The machine cannot see it. The machine cannot see trains. It can only see switches and signals. This is the gap. This is the flaw. The system assumes that if a route is properly set, the route is empty. It assumes that trains do not appear spontaneously. It assumes that the leverman is watching, that he knows where every train is, that he will not clear a signal for an occupied section. But assumptions are not mechanisms. Assumptions can fail. Kern's locomotive was sitting on the westbound main line because Kern had been given permission to move there. 5 minutes before Holbrook arrived, Kern had been told to bring his locomotive from the engine house to the yard, where it would be coupled to a freight train waiting on the southern storage track. Kern had moved his locomotive into position and stopped, waiting for further instructions. He was exactly where he was supposed to be. But the leverman had forgotten he was there, or the leverman had misread the indicator board, or the leverman had assumed Kern was on a different track. The exact cause is debated in the final report, but the result is clear. The leverman set the route for Holbrook's train without checking whether the route was actually empty, and the interlocking machine, not knowing any better, cleared the signal. The engineers write their report carefully. They do not blame the leverman. They do not blame Holbrook. They do not blame the interlocking machine. They describe what happened as a system's failure, a gap in the logic of mechanical interlocking. The machine did what it was designed to do. It prevented conflicting switches. It prevented premature signals, but it did not prevent a train from being authorized to enter an occupied track. The solution, they write, is to connect the track indicator board to the interlocking machine. The machine must be able to see trains, not just switches. If a section is occupied, the signal for that section must not clear, regardless of how the switches are set. This will require a redesign of the machine. It will require new levers, new rods, new connections. It will take months, but it will close the gap. The report is submitted to the division superintendent. The superintendent forwards it to the general manager. The general manager approves the redesign. Orders are placed for new equipment. The yard is scheduled for modification in the spring. But for now, the system remains as it is, and trains continue to move through the yard, trusting signals, following permissions, believing the system knows what it is doing. The full explanation emerges in a document written by the chief engineer of the interlocking firm. The document is 14 pages long, filled with diagrams and mechanical drawings. It describes the logic of the interlocking machine in precise detail, explaining how each lever interacts with every other lever, how the rods transmit force, how the locks engage and disengage. It is a testament to 19th century mechanical ingenuity, a machine that translates human intention into safe railroad operation through nothing but iron and geometry. But the document also includes a section titled Limitations of Mechanical Interlocking. The section is brief, only 2 paragraphs, but it is devastating in its clarity. Mechanical interlocking, the engineer writes, can prevent conflicting switch positions. It can prevent signals from displaying incorrect indications. It can ensure that once a route is set, the route cannot be altered without first restoring the signals to stop. These are absolute protections, enforced by the physical impossibility of moving locked levers. But mechanical interlocking cannot prevent a signal from being cleared for a route that is already occupied by rolling stock. The machine has no awareness of train location. It can only respond to the positions of switches and signals, which are under the direct control of the leverman. Therefore, the engineer continues, the safety of the system depends not only on the interlocking machine, but on the vigilance of the leverman. The leverman must know where every train is. He must consult the indicator board. He must verify that a route is empty before clearing a signal. The machine will assist him by preventing mechanical conflicts, but it cannot substitute for human awareness. The system is a partnership between man and machine, and if either partner fails, the system fails. This is the answer. The interlocking machine did exactly what it was designed to do. It verified that the switches were set correctly. It verified that no conflicting signals were displayed. It verified that the levers were in a safe configuration. But it did not verify that the track was empty. That was the leverman's job. And the leverman, for reasons that are still debated, did not do it. Holbrook reads the report in the superintendent's office. He reads it slowly, tracing the diagrams with his finger, trying to understand the sequence of events that led him to strike another locomotive on a track he believed was his. The explanation is technical, but the conclusion is simple. The system gave him permission to proceed, but permission is not the same as safety. Permission means the switches are set and the signals are clear. Safety means the track is empty. The system provided the first, but not the second. And Holbrook, trained to trust the system, had no way to know the difference. The leverman reads the same report. He sits in the yard office with his cap in his hands and stares at the pages. He had cleared the signal. He had set the route. He had done everything the procedure required, but he had not checked the indicator board carefully enough. He had not remembered that Kern was sitting on the main line. He had assumed the route was empty because the switches were set. He had trusted the machine to tell him if something was wrong, but the machine could not tell him. The machine did not know. Kern reads the report and says nothing. He was sitting on the track he was told to occupy. He was waiting for instructions. He was doing his job. And then another locomotive appeared, moving toward him with the full authority of a cleared signal. He had no warning. The system had not protected him. The system had placed him in harm's way and then given another train permission to strike him. The three men do not meet to discuss the incident. They do not share their thoughts, but they are bound together now by a single understanding. The system they trusted was not infallible. It was not complete. It was a machine that could only see part of the truth, and it had been used to make decisions that required seeing all of it. The modifications are completed in April. The interlocking machine is rebuilt with additional levers and connections. The track indicator board is wired into the frame. Now, when a section shows occupied on the board, the corresponding signal lever is mechanically locked. The leverman cannot clear the signal for an occupied track. The machine will not allow it. The gap is closed. But the incident is not forgotten. The report circulates among railroad companies across the country. Engineers study it. Safety committees discuss it. The language of the report becomes part of the vocabulary of railroad operation. Mechanical interlocking prevents conflicting routes but does not provide train detection. The phrase appears in manuals, in training documents, in lectures given to new levermen. The lesson is absorbed slowly, reluctantly. Railroads have invested enormous sums in interlocking machines, believing them to be the solution to operational safety. The machines are expensive, complex, difficult to install and maintain. They represent the cutting edge of 19th century technology, and they work. They prevent thousands of accidents. They eliminate entire categories of human error, but they are not perfect. They cannot see trains. And that limitation, small as it seems, is enough to allow disaster. Holbrook returns to service 3 weeks after the incident. He is assigned to the same route, the same locomotive, the same twice-daily schedule. He passes through the rebuilt yard without incident. The signals clear for him. The switches are set. The track is empty. He knows this because the system now guarantees it. But he does not trust the system the way he once did. He watches the yard more carefully now. He looks for trains on adjacent tracks. He listens for warnings from the ground. He has learned that permission is not protection. The leverman is reassigned to a smaller yard, a place with fewer tracks and simpler movements. He is not disciplined. The investigation concluded that he had followed the procedures available to him. The failure was not his alone. It was a failure of design, of assumption, of the belief that a mechanical system could substitute for complete knowledge. He performs his new duties quietly, carefully, never forgetting the red light on the indicator board that he did not see clearly enough. Kern continues to work the same corridor. He does not speak about the incident. When other engineers ask him what it felt like to be struck by a train on a track he was authorized to occupy, he shrugs and changes the subject. But he is more cautious now. When he is told to position his locomotive on a main line, he waits with his hand on the whistle cord, ready to sound a warning if another train approaches. He no longer assumes that because he is where he is supposed to be, he is safe. The railroads continue to expand. New interlocking machines are installed. New signals are erected. New safety systems are devised. The technology improves year by year, decade by decade. Train detection becomes standard. Automatic block signals replace manual systems. Centralized traffic control allows dispatchers to see every train on the line. The gaps are closed, one by one, through the patient accumulation of knowledge purchased with incidents like the one in the yard that April afternoon. But the fundamental truth remains. A system can only protect against the failures it anticipates. It can only see what it is designed to see. And no matter how sophisticated the machinery, there will always be a gap between permission and safety, between what the system allows and what the world contains. The train that passed every signal was authorized to be where it was. The system confirmed it. The system cleared the path, but the system did not know everything. And in that small space of ignorance, two locomotives met on the same piece of rail, moving with the confidence of mechanical certainty into a situation the machines could not prevent. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.